everywhere you go, there is protein. Now we got protein chips, protein cereal, protein water, and even protein vapes. And we're buying it. Search interest in protein has skyrocketed, and the number of products marketing themselves as protein packed has nearly doubled in the last 2 years. But behind the hype is a lot of shady marketing, inflated prices, and health claims that don't really add up.
The new lawsuit claiming a new version of the classic with more protein has a lot more of something else as well.
So why is protein suddenly everywhere? How are companies turning ordinary foods into protein snacks? And how much protein do you really need? Let's find out. The first question to ask is, why are we so obsessed with protein nowadays? For decades, the big nutrition debate wasn't about protein at all. It was about fat and carbs. In the 1950s and 60s, studies linked saturated fat to heart disease, and by the 70s and 80s, official guidelines told people to cut back. Food companies then rushed in with low-fat everything, often replacing fat with sugar.
One low-fat granola bar, loaded with taste, but only half the fat. With 70% less fat.
Then in the late 90s and early 2000s, the pendulum swung. Atkins and other low-carb diets turned the spotlight away from fat to carbs, and supermarket shelves suddenly became this tug of war between low-fat and low-carb products.
New Up and Go, no added sugar. It's next level goodness.
Try our new cranberry pomegranate juice.
But here's the key. Protein was never really demonized. Therefore, as social media pushed bodybuilding and fitness content into the mainstream, protein, the last remaining macronutrient, surged into popularity.
I can't eat my protein!
60 McChicken nuggets!
You are an idiot!
3,100 calories, 140 grams of protein.
And then with this entire new wellness movement, health influencers began giving recommendations for protein intake that significantly deviate from current recommended dietary allowances.
You should be aiming for 2 grams of protein per kilo per day, or 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day.
We basically tell people aim for 1 gram per pound, which would be 2.2 grams per kilo.
For context, the current recommended daily allowance is a modest 0.8 gram per kilo of body weight per day. This is the amount that you need to meet your basic nutritional needs. So why are so many influencers pushing so much higher protein requirements, almost double the RDA? Well, to their credit, some of it does make sense. There are a few benefits to higher protein. Firstly, it helps us lose weight and improve body composition via a few mechanisms. This includes increased satiety, higher thermogenesis/thermic effect of food, and maintenance or accretion of fat-free/muscle mass. But how high should we really be going? The group with the highest protein needs are people actively trying to build muscle. A systematic review and meta-analysis looked at this exact question. Is there an upper limit to the benefits of protein? What it found was clear. Beyond 1.6 grams per kilogram, extra protein didn't provide any further gains in fat-free mass. Now, that is the absolute peak. If you look at a newer meta-analysis published in 2020, it found that the increase in effect of protein supplementation rapidly diminished after 1.3 grams per kilogram of body weight, and resistance training markedly suppressed this decline. And Stuart Phillips specifically, who is very much on the pro-protein side of this argument, also agrees that protein itself plays a relatively minor role in lean mass accrual. Evidence suggests that at least 90% of any muscle gain is driven by consistent, resistant training rather than consuming extra protein. Another demographic for which higher protein is recommended tends to be older adults, as higher intakes are intended as a means of stopping age-related sarcopenia. The International Prot Age Group and European Society of Clinical Nutrition and Metabolism concluded that the daily protein requirement of healthy individuals over 65 is 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, with higher levels for individuals with acute or chronic illnesses at 1.2 to 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight, and severe illness, injury, or malnutrition at 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. The current research for added protein supplementation in this age group is somewhat underwhelming. If we look at this study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, it shows that additional supplementation with protein didn't increase lean body mass, cross-sectional area, muscle strength, or physical performance compared with controls. Protein intake of most study participants was already sufficient. And the second part is crucial. Most people are already getting enough protein.
You come to about 90 grams of protein a day for Americans. And when you put that with the recommended daily allowance, which tends to be in the 50 to 60 gram range per day per person, which has a safety buffer on it, tried to get them on a low protein diet, and the goal was 0.7 grams per kilogram per day. So let's pause for a minute, because 0.7 is pretty close to 0.8.
Good luck with that.
Right? And he said, as much as we tried, we couldn't get them to 0.7. We coached them, we counseled them. It was a goal. We tried to get this, but it was too hard to get Americans to get down to 0.7 grams per kilogram per day. And I was in the back of the room almost laughing, thinking, oh my God, you can't get people to eat as low as the RDA, because the natural diet really just has more than that.
And this is also backed up by the research. Here we have a systematic review and meta-analysis of protein intake to support muscle mass and function in healthy adults, showing that the baseline protein intake was already 1.2 grams per kilogram per day. And this is why extra protein supplements don't help. Most people are already getting enough protein from their diet. As for the risks of eating too much protein, the evidence right now is mixed. Some studies suggest possible links to kidney disease or even cancer, while others find no clear harm, so it's not a settled debate. The problem is that this binary and arbitrary number, 1 gram per pound of body weight, causes people to consume an excess amount of calories to hit this number.
Fear among nutritionists is that protein shakes are so yummy that in trying to hit our protein targets, we end up consuming more calories.
Peter Attia and Andrew Huberman are looking for their adherents to eat 2 or 3 times as much protein, which is more than 20 eggs a day.
A lot of eggs.
And that's for a 150-pound person. Imagine if you are a weightlifter bro, and so you're 250 pounds. The numbers go up and up. And so under this higher protein regime, it's actually quite hard to get as much protein as they're trying to get without also eating an extraordinary number of calories.
This compounds the real problem we have, which is eating too many calories overall, and this constant obsession with protein is only making the matter worse. In fact, research shows that it's not more protein that drives better health outcomes, but rather caloric restriction without malnutrition. Sustained reduction in caloric intake have been linked to marked improvements in risk factors for type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and even neurological disorders. What is clear though is how this obsession with protein has hijacked the nutrition narrative. It shifted attention away from overall diet quality and become a convenient way to market more ultra-processed foods as healthy just because they're very high in protein. The amount of high protein products has essentially quadrupled in the last decade. Sticking to this description essentially creates what we call a health halo effect, which is where our perception of a food's healthiness is influenced by a single attribute. So whilst in the past this was true of foods that were often marketed as low fat or low carb, today that is high protein. And the reality is anything with the slightest amount of protein can be labeled as high protein, which allows food manufacturers to unfairly jack up the price.
This bag of chips, apparently high protein, sounds solid until you realize a serving has just 3 grams of protein. less than a slice of bread.
This is a really easy example with Cheerios. The high protein Cheerios only have 1 extra gram of protein compared to the regular Cheerios, but they cost like $2 more per box.
On the other end of the extreme, health and wellness influencers are actively trying to do everything in their control to max out the amount of protein whilst minimizing the number of calories of anything else in their product.
How do I create the bar that has the highest protein per calorie? And so he got together with Peter Attia as the chief science officer and investor, and Andrew Huberman, who likes to promote these things, and they came up with the David bar. And I'm telling you, you know, they got rid of egg whites, peanuts, and dates and all that, because to hit those protein levels, they gotta, I can't recognize these ingredients, but there must be, I mean, you know, glycerin, allulose, tapioca starch, blah, 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 milk protein isolate, collagen, whey protein concentrate. Oof. It's like, okay.
Protein.
We've gone full ultra-processed foods in order to get that little bit of extra protein in the protein bar.
You probably noticed this highlighted EPG component at the back of the David bar and must be wondering what that is.
So protein bars need fat in order to not just be like a pile of dry, nasty protein. Typically, protein bars use plant oils of various kinds to supply that fat, but where David really innovates is that they find this substance called EPG.
What is EPG?
I'm so glad you asked. EPG is a modified plant fat that moves through your digestive system mostly undigested. So that means that it only delivers 92% fewer calories than like a normal fat.
Can I just say I don't exactly jump at an ingredient that moves through my digestive system totally unimpeded? Like that is a red flag for me.
Leaving the controversy aside, the real issue with products like this isn't what they contain, it's what they leave out. When protein is isolated from whole foods, we lose the added benefits of fiber and phytonutrients, compounds from plants that play a powerful role in protecting health. And the truth is, the whole debate is trying to solve a problem that largely doesn't exist. While certain groups may have higher protein requirements, the general population is already meeting or exceeding their needs. In fact, genuine protein deficiency is extremely rare. So now that you know why protein supplements aren't necessary, check out this other video where I explain why you probably don't need that electrolyte drink either. I'll see you in the next one.